After I purchased the car she desired, she glanced at the documents and remarked, "Good. This will come in handy when I leave you." I met her gaze and replied, "The paperwork will be yes." Then I pointed out the fine print in the loan agreement she signed, making her entirely responsible for all payments. The dealership took back the car within 3 months. So, here's a bit about me. I'm a planner. I'm not the spontaneous type. I'm the person with a 5-year financial strategy who maxes out contributions to my 401k and thinks a wild Friday night is ordering pizza and adjusting my investment portfolio. I find comfort in stability. I spent my 20s living frugally to save up and establish a secure life for myself. My girlfriend Ashley was the complete opposite. She focused on the present. She thrived on brunch photos, designer bags, and weekend trips. I thought we balanced each other out. I was the solid foundation, and she was the beautiful, exciting house built on top of it. Nice thought, right? The issue was that I was the only one doing the building. We had been together for 2 years in an apartment that I paid for. She worked part-time at an upscale clothing store, which suited her perfectly because it provided a great discount and just enough income to support her social life. I took care of rent, bills, and planning for the future. I didn't mind, honestly. I loved her and believed we were a team moving in the same direction. I was just driving the bus while she was in the back taking selfies. The trouble began with her car. Her old clunker finally gave out, and suddenly, getting a new car became her singular obsession. She didn't just want any car. She wanted the car, a shiny white luxury SUV with a panoramic sunroof and a price tag that made my heart sink. It was a vehicle fit for someone with a 6-figure salary, not a part-time retail worker. For months, it was all she talked about. She left browser tabs open on my laptop, showing the car's specifications, and pointed them out on the street. "Isn't that our car, babe?" she would say. It was never my car. It was always our car. I wasn't naive. I knew buying that vehicle was a terrible financial choice, but she was relentless. It became a measure of my love for her. If I truly loved her, I would find a way. If not, I was being stingy and unsupportive. I was exhausted by the constant pressure, the subtle guilt trips, and the pouting. Eventually, I gave in. But I wouldn't do it foolishly. If she wanted to live like a high-earning adult, she would have to take on some responsibility. Her credit was awful. A few maxed-out store cards and a history of late payments meant she couldn't secure a loan for a toaster, let alone a $60,000 car. My credit, however, was spotless. This formed the basis of my plan. I sat her down and presented my proposal. "Okay, Ash," I said, "you want the car? I understand. Here's the deal. I will help you, but I'm not buying it for you. We will go to the dealership. I'll make a substantial down payment to make the loan manageable, but the loan has to be in your name. You will be the sole borrower. You will be responsible for the monthly payments and the insurance." She looked a bit confused, saying, "But I can't get a loan by myself. My credit isn't great." "I know," I replied. "That's why the down payment is important. I'll put down $20,000. That's a significant portion of it. It will lower the amount you need to finance and will make the bank much more likely to approve you even with your credit score. It's the only way this works." Her eyes lit up. All she heard was $20,000, and you can get the car. She disregarded the details. She just wanted the prize. She wrapped her arms around me, exclaiming that I was the best boyfriend ever. I simply smiled. The plan was in motion. A few days later, we arrived at the dealership. The air was filled with the scent of new leather and eagerness. Ashley was practically buzzing with excitement. I had already spoken with the finance manager, a guy named Dave, and explained our situation. He was straightforward and seemed to appreciate the careful planning. When it came time to sign the paperwork, Dave led us into his office, which was cluttered with forms. "Okay, folks," he said. "Standard procedure, Ashley. Since you're the only applicant for the loan, most of this is for you." He slid the main loan application over to her. She began signing, her eyes glazed over with visions of her new sunroof. While she was occupied, I retrieved a separate folder from my briefcase. "Ash," I said, pulling out a 2-page document. "This is just a simple agreement for us. My lawyer drafted it. It formalizes that the $20,000 down payment I'm providing is a personal loan from me to you for this car. It states that you're solely responsible for all payments and insurance, and that if we ever break up, the personal loan becomes due. It's simply to protect my investment. Standard stuff." I handed her the document. She barely glanced at it. Her mind was already on the road. Yeah, okay. Whatever you need, she said, hastily signing at the bottom without reading a single word of the fine print. I signed my name, took my copy, and safely returned it to my briefcase. An hour later, we were driving home in her brand new, shiny white SUV. She was thrilled, capturing videos for her Instagram story and experimenting with all the buttons. I remained quiet, feeling a strange sense of calm. The trap had been set. When we returned to the apartment, she was on cloud 9, running her hands over the leather seats and admiring her reflection in the glossy paint. She grabbed the folder containing all the dealership paperwork and flipped through it, a huge triumphant smile on her face. She looked at the primary loan document, the one with her name listed as borrower, and then up at me, her smile morphing into a smug, condescending grin. Good, she said, tapping the paper. This will be useful when I leave you. The words hung in the air. It wasn't a joke. It was a confession, a declaration of intent. She believed she had secured a significant asset, a luxury vehicle that she thought I would ultimately be responsible for. She thought she had outsmarted me. I locked eyes with her. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't angry. I was just ready. The paperwork will be yes, I said. I walked over to my briefcase and pulled out my copy of the other document, the one she hadn't read. You should have read the fine print, Ashley, I said, handing it to her. This is the agreement you signed. The one that makes you fully liable for every cent of this car, including the $20,000 personal loan from me that's due in full upon our separation, which, by the way, just happened. I watched her read it. I saw the smug smirk disappear from her face. I observed her eyes widen in shock as she realized what she had done. The beautiful new car in the driveway wasn't a prize. It was an anchor, and she had just willingly chained it to her own leg. Update 1. The immediate aftermath of the paperwork revelation was a scene of pure chaos. Ashley's mind seemed to short-circuit. She went from triumphant queen to cornered animal in about 30 seconds. What is this? She stammered, shaking the paper at me. This isn't legal. You tricked me. Tricked you? I inquired, raising an eyebrow. I presented you with a document. I explained what it was, a personal loan agreement to protect my $20,000 investment. You signed it. A legal adult of sound mind and body, signing a contract. It's the most legal thing in the world. Then she started screaming, a torrent of accusations. I was a manipulative monster, a controlling psycho, and I had planned this all along to trap her. I simply stood there and let her exhaust herself. I didn't argue or defend myself. There was no need. The signed document in her hand was my only defense, and it was unassailable. When she finally ran out of insults, she switched to tears, big, dramatic crocodile tears that had always worked on me in the past. How could you do this to me, Kevin? She sobbed. I thought you loved me. I did, I replied, and it was true. But love requires respect. You showed me exactly how much you respect me when you looked at that loan agreement and saw it as your exit strategy. You didn't see a future with me. You saw an asset you could take with you. I just made sure you could afford it. The crying stopped. The reality of her situation began to settle in. The car payment was over $800 a month. The insurance for a new luxury vehicle, especially with her credit history, would be another $400. That totaled $1,200 a month. Her take-home pay from her part-time job was barely $1,500. And that didn't even consider the $20,000 personal loan she now owed me. She spent the rest of the night making frantic phone calls. First, she contacted the dealership. The finance manager, Dave, patiently explained that the deal was final, the contracts were signed, and the car was legally hers. Then she called the bank, and they told her the same thing. The loan was approved, it was in her name, and her first payment was due in 30 days. The next day, she tried a new tactic. She called her parents. I was in the other room packing my belongings, but I could hear her side of the conversation. She spun a wild tale about how I had forced her to buy a car, how I had trapped her in debt, and how I was trying to ruin her life. I decided to preemptively address the inevitable angry phone call from her father. I found his email address and sent him a concise, professional message. Mr. Henderson, I wrote, I'm sure you're hearing a very dramatic version of events from Ashley right now. I wanted to provide you with the facts. Ashley desperately wanted a car that was beyond her financial means. I agreed to help by providing a substantial down payment. To protect that investment, I had a standard personal loan agreement drafted, which she reviewed and signed. The The car loan from the bank is solely in her name, as she also agreed. Yesterday, immediately after the purchase, she informed me that she viewed the car as an asset she could utilize when she eventually left me. Therefore, I have ended the relationship. I've attached a copy of the personal loan agreement she signed for your review. I'm sorry that it has come to this. I attached the scanned PDF of the agreement. I knew her father was a small business owner. He understood contracts and liability. I never received a call from him. But about an hour later, I heard Ashley screaming into her phone again. What do you mean you're not going to help me? Dad, he tricked me. It's not my fault. It seemed her last line of defense had crumbled. I finished packing my belongings. I had already found a new place to move into. I wasn't going to kick her out of the apartment we shared. That would be too messy. Instead, I was simply going to leave. But I made one last logistical change. I called the utility companies and the internet provider, informing them that I was moving out and terminating my accounts. If Ashley wanted electricity, water, or Wi-Fi, she would have to apply for them herself with her own credit. I left that evening, leaving her a note on the counter with a copy of the signed agreement and a payment schedule for the $20,000 she owed me. As I walked out of the apartment for the last time, I glanced at the shiny white SUV in the parking lot. It looked like a monument to poor decisions, and it was all hers. Update 2. It has been 2 months since I walked out of that apartment and left Ashley to her new life of financial responsibility. The silence from her has been deafening, but the information that has reached me through mutual acquaintances has been nothing short of spectacular. The first month was, by all accounts, a state of complete denial for her. She kept driving the car and posting pictures of it on Instagram, trying to project an image of a successful, independent woman thriving after her breakup. But behind the scenes, the financial reality was setting in. The first car payment was due. She apparently called me from a blocked number, leaving a tearful, rambling voicemail, pleading with me to just make this one payment for her, promising she would figure it out. After that, I deleted the message without a second thought. She missed the payment, and soon the other bills began to pile up. The apartment she was living in was now solely her responsibility. Rent was due, and the new utility accounts she had to set up with her bad credit required hefty security deposits that she couldn't afford. She was drowning. She attempted to sell the car, but she was already underwater on the loan. The car had depreciated the second she drove it off the lot, and she owed the bank far more than any dealership would offer her. Selling it would mean writing a massive check she couldn't cover. She was trapped. The smear campaign I had anticipated was short-lived and ineffective. She told her friends that I was a monster who had burdened her with debt, but her story had a crucial flaw. She was still driving the $60,000 car. It's tough to play the victim while cruising around in a luxury SUV. A few mutual friends actually reached out to me, and I calmly explained the situation, even showing one of them a copy of the agreement she had signed. The narrative quickly shifted from he trapped her to she made her bed, now she has to lie in it. The best part came from her parents. Her mother called my mother to plead her daughter's case. My mom, a kind woman with a strong backbone, listened patiently and then responded, "It sounds to me like your daughter tried to take advantage of my son's kindness, and for the first time in her life, it didn't work. This is not his problem to solve." The conversation ended there. The second car payment was due, and she missed that one too. The bank's calls became relentless, and the letters shifted from friendly reminders to stern warnings. Her credit score, already poor, was now in shambles. The shiny car was no longer a status symbol. It was a source of constant, crippling anxiety. She began to drive it less, likely because she couldn't afford the gas. The Instagram posts ceased. The facade was crumbling. I didn't feel a shred of guilt. I felt a profound sense of relief. Every late payment notice she received was a consequence of her own actions and intentions. She had viewed my kindness as a weakness to be exploited. She had seen a partnership as a payday. I hadn't trapped her. I had simply handed her the bill for her own character. Final update. The conclusion of the story came exactly 93 days after I drove away from our old apartment, in the form of a tow truck. A friend of mine who lived in the same complex as Ashley sent me a text one Tuesday morning. It was a picture showing the gleaming white SUV being hooked up to a tow truck, its front wheels lifted off the ground. The caption read, "Justice is served." After 3 missed payments, the bank had finally initiated the repossession. The symbol of her arrogance and deceit was being taken away in the middle of the day for all her neighbors to witness. The financial fallout for her has been catastrophic. A repossession is one of the most damaging events that can occur on a credit report. It's a glaring red flag that screams financial irresponsibility. She won't be able to secure a loan for anything for the next 7 to 10 years. And it gets worse. The bank will sell the car at auction for a fraction of what she owes. They will then sue her for the deficiency balance, likely amounting to tens of thousands of dollars. On top of that, she still owes me the $20,000 for the down payment, a debt for which my lawyer has already sent a formal demand letter. She is financially ruined, in a hole so deep it will take her a decade to escape, if she ever does. I heard she had to leave the apartment because she couldn't afford it. She broke the lease, incurring even more fees and penalties. She lost her job at the boutique due to her chaotic life. She moved back in with her parents, a woman in her late 20s with no car, no job, no savings, and a credit score in ruins. On the other hand, my life has been peaceful. I moved into a new place that is entirely my own. I've been focusing on my work and investments. The $20,000 I put down on that car is a sunk cost, a lesson learned. But it was the best money I ever spent. It was the price of my freedom. It was the cost of removing a toxic user from my life before she could inflict any further damage. She looked at the paperwork for a luxury vehicle and saw a tool to use to leave me. I viewed the same situation as an opportunity to teach her a lesson about responsibility. I didn't yell or fight. I simply used a contract. I applied the cold, hard logic of finance to protect myself. She thought she was playing a game of hearts, but I was playing chess. And the final move was checkmate. The paperwork was useful, just not in the way she had intended.